I didn't bring my machete.
Okay.
I don't have a machete, but you go first. What is that?
Established in 1920, Washington Park Cemetery was built during segregation, spanning 75 acres in what is now the city of Berkeley. It was the largest Black cemetery in the metro area, and it's the final resting place of some of the most prominent African Americans in St. Louis. But that didn't stop the plans of urban renewal, which would end up erasing around 33 acres of this historic land.
What exists today is overgrown and neglected, and only preserved by volunteers and descendants. But it just isn't enough to keep up the burial site. We took a tour to get a good look at the current state of the land with Asia Corrigan, founder of Save Washington Park and the St. Louis Preservation Crew. She's a longtime volunteer who facilitates cleanups and educates anyone who's interested in the history of the cemetery.
The cemetery is packed to the brim, 42,000 burials. So as we walk along, I just sort of want to point a few things out. All the headstones are facing east, so that's why you can't see any of the, when we go around that way,
Some of the graves we're looking for belong to my ancestors who were buried here, along with some other prominent Black St. Louisans.
And a few other details I'll tell you once we get a little bit farther along when we're looking for your family.
This cemetery holds a lot of the heritage and culture of Black St. Louis, individuals who called this city home, and those who made a tremendous impact on the region. People like William Mitchell, the founder of the first Black-owned news outlet in Missouri, the Argus, Supreme Court Attorney George Vaughn, and Professor William Ansell, Grand Keeper of Records and Seal. This for-profit cemetery was the go-to for the who's who in the region. Located right next to the airport and the city of Kinloch, a formerly thriving Black town in St. Louis County. However, all of that changed as the city continued to progress.
In the 1950s, Interstate 70 was built, cutting right through the heart of the cemetery. In 1972, Lambert Airport acquired 9 more acres of the cemetery's land to build their longest runway. And finally, in 1992, the city of St. Louis condemned what was left of the north half of the cemetery and built the MetroLink light rail system. This caused between 11,000 to 13,000 graves to be uprooted and the land to be paved over.
No matter the owner, there was nothing that could be done to stop the plans of urban renewal, especially in North St. Louis. It's a practice that's all too familiar to the region, and an expert from the African American Redress Network told me all about it. They address U.S. historical racial injustices through research, education, and advocacy.
St. Louis is really well known for this because of the urban planner Harland Bartholomew.
Linda Mann focuses on policy and racial redress in the organization.
But Harland Bartholomew was a very well-known urban planner. He actually did a lot of cities. He designed Kentucky, like Lexington, Kentucky, Atlanta, Georgia. He was involved in Baltimore, Washington, D.C. And his urban planning design really purposefully segregated. It was a tool that was used to segregate and zone communities segregated. And they would confine basically Black and Brown communities to a certain area within cities. If you trace that from that onset to today, you can literally watch the continual disinvestment in communities, to your point, the urban renewal, highways bifurcating communities, displacing individuals, taking land in some cases, and in your case, cemetery land, even with or without the removal of families.
The cemetery declined continuously at the hands of private owners. This article from the 1990s speaks of the issues and series of suits that eventually caused former owner Virginia L. Younger to take her own life. Despite the residents' continuous fight for the land, it continued to be uncared for. The owner of the cemetery today is Kevin Bailey, who bought the cemetery in 2006 for just $2. We reached out to him for a statement about the plans for the site, but got no response. But we did get a hold of State Senator Brian Williams, who represents the 14th District in North St. Louis County, where Washington Park is located.
I've been able to advocate for hundreds of millions of dollars to come back to the region, but in particular to support cleanup efforts in Kinloch, Missouri, which is right across the highway from the airport. It's surrounded by so many communities, including Washington Park Cemetery. So we believe that this is going to create a domino effect to start working towards revitalizing a part of the region that I think has been overlooked for far too long. In terms of cleanup, this is private land. So there has been a partnership with efforts of so many different organizations that I'm sure you've met with that have involved cleanups. I've been proud to be a part of cleanups, which have been efforts to work with people that are mowing the lawn and the grass, and being able to pick up trash and ensure that we preserve it the best that we can.
So every section has been geo-tagged. SIUE did this one, UMSL did this one, Spire did this giant one, and then they did the baby section. And then we had just throughout the years volunteers doing 7 and 8.
Entities like Washington University here in St. Louis has done a tremendous job working with people like Corrigan, who has been tremendous in terms of helping get access to records and helping descendants identify their loved ones.
Volunteers from the St. Louis Genealogical Society preserved the cemetery's data after retrieving it from the previous owner, and then donated it to the Missouri History Museum's Library and Research Center. So it was easy to find the maps and plot cards for my ancestors' graves, one in what was Section 12, 3 lost in the overgrown plots, and 1 in a section that we could walk through. My second great-aunt, Mary Thurman Brady.
Oh, so right. She's like right here.
Oh.
Let's see. What was the year again?
She died in 1980. Did you?
I found 460.
Oh, nice. Where is that?
So this might be 470.
Oh, no.
We unfortunately did not find her headstone, as it may have been destroyed or sunken into the ground, but we did find the exact spot where she's buried.
I don't see her either. I think she would be right around here.
Okay.
I experienced firsthand the disappointment that many Black St. Louisans feel when visiting Washington Park to find their loved ones' graves.
This is honestly an epidemic in its own way, and a sad statement to how we are caring for the deceased African Americans in this country.
There are so many generations of families here that'll never be able to find their loved ones because their tombstones are missing. They may have been relocated to a new cemetery, so it erased the history of so many families. And we need to make sure that not only are we prioritizing some of the more underserved and impacted communities, but we're also bringing some of the wealthier communities to understand that we're all in this together. And I think Washington Park Cemetery is just a symbol of how St. Louis has come far, but it needs to go so much further.